Well, under a guideline implemented in 2011 during the Obama administration, ICE avoids going into what they call sensitive locations. Those would include schools, hospitals, and churches when they make immigration raids. But last month, they apparently violated that policy, arresting an illegal immigrant who was camping outside his church. The move infuriated many on the left, which vilified ICE for doing its job. Joshua Galper is a lawyer and Democratic Party strategist who supports creating what he calls immigration safe zones, and he joins us now. Mr. Galper, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me tonight.
So there are a lot of questions about this policy, this safe zone policy, but the obvious one to me as a parent and a taxpayer is making a school or a hospital into a safe zone for illegal aliens going to make schools and hospitals better?
Well, it's not about making schools and hospitals better. It's about providing the really important social service institutions that are the fabric of our community. So it's really about what we're doing to support people who are undocumented or citizens here in this country. Without hospitals, without these sorts of social service organizations, there'd be a lot more cost put on the taxpayer, right? And you also have to look at sort of how this links up with the bigger issue, which I think this is coming from, in sanctuary cities, which I'm sure we'll get to.
First of all, let me just, my jaw's open, and I applaud you for admitting that it's not about making schools and hospitals better. So if you have kids in a public school and it becomes 25% non-English speaking illegal alien, and a lot have, or if you're going to your local emergency room and it's filled with people without health insurance who can't speak English, it doesn't improve the institution or the experience for you, obviously, and so I'm just glad that you conceded that. But would you also concede that
I'm not quite conceding that, Tucker. What I'm saying is that it improves the social fabric of our communities, and of course it improves those institutions by having more diversity in these places. But the really important thing is that we need
a school gets better when it gets like a massive influx of non-English speaking illegal aliens?
Well, we're not talking about education. We're talking about whether or not ICE should be following the 2011 directive.
But schools are
and whether
designed
there's
to
a new
provide it.
policy
I mean, the point of a school
now
is not to help people who've snuck into our country illegally, but to educate our children, right?
Well, it's to educate everybody who can go to that school. I mean, that is the idea. But the larger point here is whether or not you're going to have big roundups of people who are undocumented, who've committed no crime, who are in this country because they want a better life. In some cases, some people are seeking asylum in this country, and the whole idea is to make sure that you don't have this destruction of the social fabric. When you look at,
well,
for instance,
it's bad for them for sure. I mean, I wouldn't, if I'd snuck into someone else's country illegally and I were enjoying free schools and medical care and maybe housing and subsidized food, I wouldn't want anyone to hassle me at all. And I totally agree. They must be against it.
Let's talk about the people who should be hassled, though,
who
right?
sends his kids to public school, why should I be in favor of this exactly?
Look, we're talking about when ICE is going after folks, according to DHS, in the Obama administration at least,
right.
We were talking about 13% of undocumented immigrants were people who were being targeted, people who were committing crimes, had other issues on their record where they were being targeted for deportation. 87% of undocumented immigrants have done nothing in this country in terms of committing a crime and putting themselves on a list where they should be getting deported. That's what the Obama administration did. Now we've got a situation where you've completely widened that scope through this executive order, and you're suggesting, I think, that these agents should be going to schools and to hospitals and churches to round up people who are scared to death that they're going to be.
I bet they are. I bet they are scared.
And I bet a lot of them are wearing ankle bracelets.
And I bet a lot of them are good people too. My only point is that there is another interest here, and that's the interest that I would have as an American citizen in having decent schools. And schools have been totally destroyed by unfettered immigration, as you know. In the state I grew up in, California, it's like wrecked the school system. It really is a drain on hospitals, as you know. And my only point is, don't I get a say in this too? Look, or is it just about what's good for the illegal aliens?
I would disagree with that being the primary reason for wreckage of the school system.
Are you serious? In California?
Well, I went to school in California. I did not go to school in California.
I think there's wide consensus, yes, that immigration has not been great for California schools.
I think the issue is whether or not these places should be safe zones for people, and whether or not the 2011 directive was reasonable.
Okay, so but
you're not talking about kids who've committed a crime. You're talking about people who are undocumented, and you're saying that is
well, some do commit crimes, but look, their presence here is a crime. And so my question is, why are we and I'm not saying they're bad people, but I don't think people who cheat on their taxes are necessarily bad people. I don't think people who don't register their guns are necessarily bad people. And so my question is, why are we limiting this to immigration crimes? Why couldn't a church be a safe haven, or a hospital or a school be a safe haven for people who violate federal gun law? Are you for that too?
Look,
and if not, why not?
You know, I think that's a completely different different set of issues.
Why is this only for immigration laws?
Because it's about immigration laws. That's what we're talking about here.
But I want to talk about gun laws. I think some of them are silly, and I don't think people who violate them are necessarily bad. I've got a gun. I haven't hurt anyone with it, but I didn't register it. So why shouldn't I be able to have safe haven in my kid's school? I'm serious.
If what you're suggesting is that somebody has a gun in a school and is not being arrested and held to the same.
No, I don't necessarily have the gun on me, but let's say the Fed's looking for me because I didn't register my gun, and I go into a school because I don't want to hurt the fabric of the community. No, shouldn't I be immune from enforcement within the school?
I would concede that the person with the gun should of course be put in jail, but or taken away, arrested.
So what you're saying is you get to decide which crime should be enforced, which laws should be enforced,
I think
and which shouldn't be.
A firearm that is loaded is a much different situation.
No, I don't have a gun with me.
Undocumented committed no crime.
I didn't pay my taxes, didn't pay my federal taxes, but I go to a school or a hospital, and why wouldn't that be a safe zone? Wouldn't it hurt the fabric of the community if they arrested me? I've got kids, man. If I go to jail, it's going to hurt my kids.
Isn't the bigger issue here that the federal government is trying to impose on local communities what they should and should not be doing?
No, the issue is that
some
people think that some federal laws can be ignored and others can't. And my question is, how can we tell what should be obeyed and what shouldn't be?
Well, I think we need to start with what the substance of the issue is. And I think when you're talking about immigration and people who are undocumented, there has been a decision by the prior administration, and I think it's one that was not necessarily disagreed with by the entire population, that they would not invade these places and take these people out.
I wish they'd do the same for tax law, because I pay too much in taxes and it bothers me. I can get in trouble for it.
That's a completely different issue. That is a completely different issue.
Why don't you and I get together? We're out of time. We can start a coalition. Ignore federal tax law. Will you join me in that?
Maybe a coalition for federalism. I'll join you in that.
Joshua Galper, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Up next, we'll talk to a college student.